Today, my journey to help save people money on car insurance has got me reflecting a bit. You know, about all the places I've been so far, all the nice folks I've met, and all the money Geico saved them. I mean, if I had $1 for every time I save somebody money on car insurance, I could retire tomorrow. But then I'd have to stop my journey across America. I'd never get to visit Collinsville, Illinois, and see the world's largest bottle of ketchup. Well, there's no way I'm going to miss that.
For a free rate quote, visit geico.com to see how much you could save. Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
If you've ever wanted a truly spectacular diamond ring, you'll want to visit Jared this Thursday through Sunday. That's because this Thursday through Sunday, when you purchase your diamond at Jared, you'll receive up to a $1,000 reward toward the purchase of a beautiful diamond setting. Choose from thousands of diamonds and have your one-of-a-kind ring created right here at Jared. Get set in diamonds this Thursday through Sunday for a reward worth up to $1,000 only at Jared.
It can only be Jared.
KWFM, South Tucson.
The views of this program are not necessarily those of KWFM, its management, or its sponsors. The host is solely responsible for the content.
WFM 1330 The Star. This is the Jake Feinberg Show, and it's great to have you aboard with us here. My guest today was rooted in his gospel upbringing, yet at a different period in our history, when church music overlapped with soul and R&B. My guest was in the right place with the right sound. Originally discovered by Elvin Bishop, my guest generated interest in the Bay Area as a Hammond B3 specialist that could enhance the sound in country, rock, swing, and jazz vocal groups. Still, it was the gospel organ that drew John Kahn to my guest. The Jerry Garcia Band was at a point musically where they had burned through a bevy of keyboardists and were looking for a sound that could bridge roots music with Motown and boogie woogie. The swirling organ, the female vocals, the reggae pulse rhythms. It was love in the afternoon for many years to come for all Jerry Garcia fans. Melvin Seals, welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show.
Well, hello, how are you?
It's wonderful to talk to you, my man.
Likewise, my friend.
Could you talk a little bit about your upbringing? Your roots are really, they were in the gospel, and talk about the music of your childhood and what did gospel music of that time sound like?
Well, you know, my father was the choir director of a church and the pianist, one of the pianists. So there was a piano in the house. And as a young age, you know, I used to listen to him and listen to some of the musicians that were playing in the church. And just struck a little note in me, you know, by there being a piano in the house. I used to sit on it and just try and make some sense of it all. And to a couple, you know, I started making up some songs or playing some songs that he would play. So my upbringing was long stint from church background for a good while. And then one day I heard an organist, and it just kind of turned my head around from the piano to the organ. It's like, wow, it's like, wow, listen to that. And I started seeking the organ. At the time, the church that we were in, they had one of them old Times organs that sounded nothing like a Hammond B3. Then I became aware of, you know, one of my idols at the time, as a little boy, was Billy Preston. He had that church, rock, gospel, blues, R&B, soul sound on the organ. And I come to find out he was from the church, too. You know, grew up playing in the church and got outside and played with a lot of celebrities, as we all know.
Right.
So I used to watch him on American Bandstand and Shindig. I'm going way back. I don't know if some of my fans go that far back, but that's where I used to see him as a boy on television. You know, and then, you know, of course, many other organs. I started paying attention to just any songs that had a great organ solo or sound of any form of fashion, and just fell in love with the organ, and not one style. Anything, classical, rock, gospel, blues, anything that sounded good. I kind of seeked after some of the what it takes to make that sound, and that's why I was able to do so many different things, because I was not locked into just one thing.
Right. No, I mean, you are the prototypical case of your generation, somebody who thrived on being open-minded, and I'm curious. how did you get exposure to the blues and the folk and the other kinds of music that the church might consider, sinful music?
Oh, that was quite a battle. Not even in the church, in my house.
I know this.
I had to try and play the boogie woogie when my father was at work.
Right, exactly. When everybody was out of the house, you were jamming.
Out of the house, and sometime I would be dare enough to play a little gospel song and added some stuff to it, And it was so funny, My parents, it was more so my mother, funny, It says, when they didn't like it, they would tell me, "It's time to give the piano a rest now. Piano needs a rest." I never understood that as a boy. Now I'm saying piano needs a rest, and I think about that now. Lord have mercy. But that's when they didn't like what I was fooling around with. The piano needed a rest,
How did you? I mean, I guess this is a question because I've done over 150 interviews. A lot of the guys talk about the Fillmore District in San Francisco being like Groove Holmes and other legendary Merle Saunders. They'd have these organ trios going on in the Fillmore District, and I'm just, be Saturday night jam sessions, and then 6 in the morning it would reopen again, and everybody would be down there. And I'm just wondering, did you ever play in the Fillmore District? How did you get your chops, live chops, early on in the Bay Area?
Well, I guess, that's a really good question because I played with a number of no-name bands before Elvin Bishop. And even before Elvin Bishop, there was a band called Gideon and Power.
Right.
You remember them. I played with him for quite some time, and he had a little deal with A&M Records, and before him, just some of the out of the school Growers House bands, but also I was with Polytechnical High School Choir, one of the first choirs that toured Europe. The whole choir went, and I was with them, and but the chops that I kind of have now, I guess they really develop somewhere. Well, let me go back because I'm missing a great area. Before I got with Elvin and Jerry Garcia and Gideon and Power, I did Broadway shows.
In off-Broadway or in New York?
Here in San Francisco.
Oh, wow. Okay, so talk about that a little bit.
Well, the one that you may recognize ran 6 years here in San Francisco on Broadway theater was Evolution of the Blues.
Jon Hendricks.
Jon Hendricks.
That's how
right.
you got that. Because, and just Melvin, for the record, I was born in 1978. So a lot of this stuff, I'm a veritable youngster, but I'm a craving of history. So that's how you got to know Jon Hendricks.
That's what, I went to audition. They needed, there was a gospel scene in Evolution of the Blues, and he wanted a musician, and that could work with the choir. And a friend of mine knew someone else, and I went up to his house, played one song, and had a job.
Right.
So I was in the play from day one, and I actually left it in 6 years after it. It was still going, but it was kind of dwindling down.
Well, and let's be clear, I was just up in Phoenix with my family, and I was digging through the record shop, and what do I find but Jon Hendricks, Tell Me the Truth. Melvin Seals on the title track, baby. I was like, dude, this is pre-Garcia Melvin right here. It was awesome.
That's what it was, and also got to meet Oscar Brown Jr., and there were a number of other celebrities that came through there. Jon Hendricks took breaks, and other people kind of took his place. But I was there 6 years, and after that I went on to do about 4 more Broadway plays, America More or Less, Don't Bother Me, I Can't Code, and A Song in the Sky, Joyce Carol Thomas. About 4 Broadway plays before I realized this is not what I want to do. Because, you're doing the same thing every night on cue.
Right.
And I wanted to explore. But in the meantime, Elvin Bishop came through there. Gideon and Power came through there, and Mickey Thomas and a lot of folks. I've met a lot of musicians that came through there, and kind of broadened my thing of reaching out and doing other things.
The double album Raising Hell, I think it's called, with you, and it's interesting. What did Elvin? What did he mean to Bay Area music, and what did he mean to your career?
Well, Elvin was shuffle and blues all the way, rhythm and blues and shuffles, his thing. He did have a couple hits. He had one hit with Fool Around and Fell in Love, which was not his style. But
of course, that became the pop hit, though.
Yeah, it became the pop hit, not his voice, and I don't think he did a whole lot of, they all kind of contributed in writing it. But I think the only thing he did on it was play the guitar solo on it. But it became his hit. But he had other hits, Still in Watermelons and Traveling Shoes. He had some other songs that made some noise. And so he was the first of me opening up and playing more freely. Because remember, I came from the Broadway plays where on cue, a word that said "bam," something you do.
Right.
You do it the same every night. And so, from that point on, it was R&B, and on cue, you cross your T's, you dot your I's. And when I got with Elvin, it was a little bit more looser, and I was able to just solo as long as I want, as much as I want, and anything that came to my head. So I started developing, okay, I could just do anything, and it works, or it feels good to be able to explore.
Exactly. It's interesting because I listened to that album, and it has like a country, like you said, a rhythm and blues feel to it, but it's not exploratory. Like, it's not. There's not like a 15-minute, jam on there.
No.
I'm searching for the trademark Seals, organ solos, and they're few and far between on that double album. But I mean, Elvin seemed like he was the type of guy who he was comfortable enough in his own skin and secure enough with his own success that he was willing to give other people exposure. I know he did the same thing with Ron Stallings when Ron was really young.
Uh-huh.
And so, he did something similar. And then, of course, you get to see these early pictures of Melvin Seals as well, which is just classic. You get the 70s feel of Melvin, which is just classic.
Oh, wow.
But,
yeah.
Let's be clear. If for the record, this is important. I've interviewed, some writers and some other people close to Jerry, but I really want you to talk about this story of playing with Maria Muldaur, and then out of the blue, John Kahn approaches you, and take us through that for a minute.
Well, that was my introduction into the Jerry Garcia Band. I was doing some work with Maria Muldaur right after Midnight at the Oasis, and Amos Garrett and a number of those great musicians were working with her. And, of course, John Kahn, bass player with Jerry Garcia Band, was her boyfriend, and he sat in on bass a number of times at some of her shows. So, of course, we have rehearsals and we do some shows, and John Kahn is paying attention to me. And, after, I think, 3 or 4 or 5 gigs, him and Maria came to the church I was playing for. They just wanted to know more about me. They asked me where was I playing, and I told them, and they showed up a couple Sundays. They said, "Oh wow, look at them out there." It was
great.
It was nice to see that.
Definitely.
And, so then, shortly after that, he asked me would I be interested in playing in another band. He told me that he played with a few other bands, and he wanted to know if I'd be interested. And as any musician, you kind of leave open doors. Sure, man, I would love to do it. Didn't know who it was or anything. And now the thing that you should know, I was not a Deadhead.
No, I know.
I didn't know much about the Grateful Dead. All I knew is, once a year they did the New Year's around the Oakland Coliseum Auditorium, and you hear about the news of how the people didn't like them camping out. You hear those are the things I heard.
Right. The riffraff,
the clutter that was going on when they would play somewhere. And then you would hear, like if one of them having a birthday, Mickey Hart celebrates his birthday, Grateful Dead, or Jerry Garcia birthday. You would hear that, and they say a word or two. That's all I knew. The name Grateful Dead. I didn't know the members, nothing about them. Nothing, because I wasn't into that.
That is so. This is awesome. Keep going.
So, John Kahn extended an invitation, and one day I got a phone call from him and said, we got a little rehearsal up here, one little band I was telling you about, Front Street, which is where the Grateful Dead office was, and he said, you want to come up and do a little rehearsal and see if we can do some gigs? I said, oh, yeah. So being excited of something new, I get there early. Because I like good impression, I want to be there early. And so it was just kind of the night guy there that would kind of open the door, and none of them were there. Now, here's the important thing that you have to kind of put the ends together. I'm out of the church. I'm a church boy, and, I believe in God and Christianity and all that. And I walk into this place, and I see skeletons of every form of fashion. I see a skeleton with a violin in his hand. Backdrops is what I'm talking about. I see a skeleton with a rose in his hair. I just see skeleton logos and backdrops. And so it's starting to freak me out because, a skeleton, death, God, church didn't quite go together.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so, and I don't know, and remember that Jim Jones stuff that went down really big time, that cult thing. So I don't know what's going on because I know nothing about the Grateful Dead. I walk in and I see all of this stuff that I'm not familiar with. So neither here nor there. Okay, so everybody showed up around one time. All the rest of the guys walked in. And so you know how you meet about 5, 6 people at one time. It's short-term memory. You don't really remember their name. Hey, I'm so-so. Hey, how you doing? Hey, so-so. You get the name, it goes in the ear and one out the other. You don't really have it. And so in that mix was Gregory Rico, who played with Sly Stone, Jerry Garcia, but I didn't get it, and of course I met John. John, we played together, and a few other people. He had some background singers. They all came in. And so the guy on the guitar said, hey, let's go play a couple songs. We go into the room, and I think the first song was How Sweet It Is, because it's something everybody kind of knew. And I think another Motown song, I think it was Harder They Come. I mean, it's not a Motown song, Jimmy Cliff. Harder They Come. And so the guy on the guitar said, take a break. And we go out back out into the lounge area, and he said, yep, that's what I'm looking for. You're hired. And so I'm saying naive me, I'm saying to the guy on the guitar, which is Jerry Garcia, man, you play some great guitar. Don't know who he is. And they just bust up laughing at everybody because I didn't have a clue of what was going on. And I really didn't.
Did Khan ever come to you and say this was, that's the way he planned it. He wanted you to, this is what he wanted. He didn't want to tell you everything because then maybe you wouldn't have come in the first place.
Well, I probably would have saw dollar signs or something like, ooh, I want this. But I think that is kind of what they wanted. Because even after I got in there, and I'm in the band now, and I realized that Merle Saunders was my friend. We have a production together. We had a production company together called MS Production. Merle Saunders, MS, Melvin Seals, MS. So I knew Merle. Merle used to call me and talk about the Jerry Garcia band, and I'd talk about the Elvin Bishop band. We were two guys in the Bay Area that were lucky enough to play with guys like them.
Right. You were just consumed with your own thing. You weren't necessarily tapped into what he was talking about.
No,
exactly.
He would tell me about them, and I'd tell him about my experience, and blah, 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 and we just go on, So I knew Merle. So when I found out Merle was one of the keyboard players that played with him, besides a few more in that area before me, I wanted to hear, let me hear what Merle did, And they absolutely did not want me to listen to any previous keyboard player. Because if I would have started playing exactly what they did. If I heard something I was, that's what they must want. And I would have just picked up exactly what he was doing and played that. And they didn't want me to do that. So they didn't let me listen to nothing. I just played what I thought it should be there.
Melvin, this is an interesting thing because a lot of people talk about Jerry. It was his band, and he really was able to focus on what he was passionate about, which was really the soul and the Motown. He was looking for a gospel feel. Did he ever? He said that's what I'm looking for. You got the job. But then subsequently you brought him the wonderful singers as well. Jerry was a soul guy at the core, even though he did the Grateful Dead thing and he did it really well and he got into it. This was more he was wearing his emotions on his sleeve with this band.
That's where he was. That's what he liked. He loved that Jerry Garcia band. Although we know the Grateful Dead and other things brought in the money and that was a legacy, but Jerry was happiest playing with the Jerry Garcia band.
You know, we have a little bit of time before our first break, Melvin, and you went into the studio early on with Garcia, and I want to play you something you probably haven't heard in a little while. Let's come back and we'll talk about it, okay?
All righty.
Just hold those thoughts because we got to go to a news break at the bottom of the hour, but I wanted to get that in, so hang tight, buddy, okay?
All righty.
All right, we'll be back on the Jake Feinberg Show just a little bit.
This is the Jake Feinberg Show. We'll be right back.
NBC News Radio, I'm Melissa Rayberger. U.S. airports are on high alert this weekend in line with last week's bomb plot that was foiled. NBC News national investigative correspondent Michael Isikoff has more.
Passengers flying into the U.S. this weekend are facing more pat-downs and random searches under a new directive from Homeland Security officials. And the U.S. is stepping up drone strikes targeting al-Qaeda militants in southern Yemen.
Yemeni officials say a drone strike killed 6 suspected al-Qaeda militants today. Austerity measures are bringing people into the streets in Europe and the Middle East. Thousands of Spaniards are gathered in Madrid's central square to protest high unemployment and a new recession. Demonstrators are being warned that they will not be allowed to camp overnight. In 5 Israeli cities, protesters are complaining of stagnant wages and inflation at the grocery store. 3 Boston University students studying in New Zealand have been killed in a highway crash. At least 5 other BU students were hurt in the same crash. This is NBC News Radio.
One thing I've learned on my journey to help save people money on car insurance is that folks across the country like convenience. And what could be more convenient than visiting Geico.com, where you can manage your policy, pay your bill online, just about anything you need. And it's open 24/7. It's kind of like popping into the ultimate convenience store, except we save people money. And we don't have beef jerky.
For a free rate quote, visit Geico.com to see how much you could save. Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
99.9% of the Grainger products you order are shipped the same day. And 99% of our customers think that's great. But if you're part of the 1% minority that thinks this is too fast, here's some ways you can slow us down. Talk slower on the phone. Order in a language only you understand. Have your order shipped to a houseboat, then move the houseboat. Or my personal favorite, order 1 trillion of something. For super fast access to Grainger's over 900,000 products, call, click Grainger.com, or stop by a branch today. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Today, my journey to help save people money on car insurance has got me reflecting a bit. You know, about all the places I've been so far, all the nice folks I've met, and all the money Geico saved them. I mean, if I had $1 for every time I save somebody money on car insurance, I could retire tomorrow. But then I'd have to stop my journey across America. I'd never get to visit Collinsville, Illinois, and see the world's largest bottle of ketchup. Well, there's no way I'm going to miss that.
For a free rate quote, visit Geico.com to see how much you could save. Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
If you've ever wanted a truly spectacular diamond ring, you'll want to visit Jared this Thursday through Sunday. That's because this Thursday through Sunday, when you purchase your diamond at Jared, you'll receive up to a $1,000 reward toward the purchase of a beautiful diamond setting. Choose from thousands of diamonds and have your one-of-a-kind ring created right here at Jared. Get set in diamonds this Thursday through Sunday for a reward worth up to $1,000 only at Jared.
It can only be Jared.
Good. Folks, this is Jake Feinberg. When it came time to decide where to buy my daughter a piano last year, the choice was easy. We got it at Hackenberg & Sons Piano Company. Located at 4333 East Broadway Boulevard, Hackenberg & Sons is Tucson's longest-running family-owned piano business. Run by 3 brothers and a son, they pride themselves on superior instruments and customer satisfaction. It's why they've been around so long. And it's why their pianos are used at the University of Arizona, Pima Community College, and many other prestigious institutions. So whether it's for your child, business, or yourself, when you buy a piano, make sure you go to Hackenberg & Sons. It'll be the beginning of a long-lasting partnership. For more information, visit them at hackenbergpiano.com. You want to know that when you're insuring valuable goods, you have an agent you can trust. Craig Pretzinger is that agent. For auto, home, and life insurance, the Pretzinger Agency is Tucson's most honest and flexible insurance company. Have off-road vehicles or motorhomes? Pretzinger can cover that as well. Pretzinger Agency at 299-5810, located across the street from Sullivan Steakhouse on the southwest corner of River and Campbell. Trust, compassion, and service. The whole package at Pretzinger Agency. Call 299-5810 or text quote to 520-582-5150. 520-582-5150. If you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. Be a part of a new coalition with Jake Feinberg. The second half of my show starts right now. Welcome back, everybody, to the Jake Feinberg Show. We're joined today by legendary organist Melvin Seals. Melvin, welcome back.
Yes, thank you.
Hey, I'm sorry to cut you off. That was Midnight Getaway from an outtakes from Run from the Roses. What you were in the studio almost, I guess you joined the band in 81, but guys were in the studio pretty soon after that.
Yeah, I think that's the first, I believe that's the first studio record we did, that one there.
Absolutely. Talk about that experience in the studio, because they were also incorporating, this is the fascinating thing that I love about Melvin Seals, is that they were also trying to incorporate some kind of electric piano into the mix as well, with Jimmy Warren.
Yeah, when we started this version of the Garcia band, Jimmy Warren was on the piano, and he had I think it was his girlfriend or something. There were two background singers, or they came shortly after that. They were not the singers that we wound up with, of course, but one was Jimmy's girlfriend, if I'm not mistaken, and then we had another one, and so Jimmy was originally on the piano.
It seems to me when I listen, because I listen to primarily everything between 81 and 84, so it's really when you were in the early incarnations of your career with Jerry. But it does strike me, it seemed to take a little while to figure out how to fit in, when you should take your solo, should Jimmy go before you. It just seemed like there was a feeling out period, and I'm wondering if you could explain, when you first started rehearsing with Garcia and Kahn, they encouraged you not to listen to anybody else, but how did you adapt your style to theirs and theirs to yours?
Well, first off, again, there were no instructions of what they want. They just had some chord charts, just so you can kind of know, where the song is going, but no guidance in what to play, when to play, how to play. It was totally, he wanted you to be you and see what you came up with. And I have the tendency, and I did it with Jimmy, to let another person take it. Just play as much as you want to play, and I'll stay in the background. It's just my nature to do that. Maybe because of the Broadway plays and things, that I was not out trying to achieve anything or be out front. I love being in the background, just putting that coloring that I do. So a lot of times they wanted me to solo, but I gave it to Jimmy.
You just put it. It's what I hear. What I hear is apprehension for you to really take over. Although in this next track we're about to play, this to me, when I hear, this is the Melvin Seals that basically blows people off the map. So this is early. Melvin was a veritable spring chicken with Jerry Garcia for this next clip. Let's take a listen to it.
Okay.
Yep, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, all right, that was pretty good.
Well, that was 1982, an outdoor show at Music Mountain in New York, and it was interesting because you guys went on tour with Bob Weir, and at the time Bobby was playing with the Midnights with Billy Cobham and
Right.
Alfonso Johnson. So the crowd was electric, and to me it was sort of a coming out party for you in a lot of ways. That's the way I interpret it, because before that Jimmy took a solo and it was kind of weeble wobbly. I'm not sure what he was doing exactly, and then you came in and just sort of whipped it right out of the and at that point I'm just trying to figure out, because pretty soon, not too much down the road, by the fall, they had basically said, okay, we want Melvin organ. That's it. Let's clear it out.
Yeah. But, in not being totally all fair, but I kind of did like Muhammad Ali, the rope-a-dope effect.
I love it. Go ahead. Explain
Let
that.
him play. I knew he wasn't playing much of nothing. I kept giving him the solos. Then I would take one and burst out, kind of like what you heard. Then I give him all the rest of the solos. I just kind of picked and choose. Every now and then I stick my head out the door, but I kept giving him the solos. And of course he liked them. He played what he was able to play, but they kind of didn't go nowhere.
It's so interesting to listen to that time, because I'm like listening to this early Melvin, and I'm like, why is he so restrained? Like, why doesn't he? But it speaks to your personality.
I did that. That's not what they wanted, and I guess so. They figured,
How did you know
the only way we're gonna make him play is, get rid of this other guy.
Right. So how would you know that they wanted you to play more? Did he come up and tell you straight up, or they would look at you on stage? How would they?
Jerry would look at me, and when Jerry would look at me, he'd take his solo, and he'd look over there, and Jimmy and I was both over there together. And so Jerry look at me, and I look away, and I look at Jimmy, and Jimmy just start playing.
Right. And then, I want to go back to this issue, because it's really important. You like you said, you walked in and there were skeletons with violins, and it was just kind of a crazy vibe, just in general. Jerry Garcia and the Grateful Dead, it was extremely spiritual, moving music, but how did you reconcile that with your belief, with your faith? Did that take a little while, or were you able to mesh that relatively quickly?
It took a while. I would not even, I had my own grand piano and organ, and I had all the instruments that I actually played with him. I didn't play grand, I take that back, but I had it. But organ and synthesizer, Fender Rhodes, whatever we were playing around at the time. But I would not take it out on the road. I refused to let my gear go on the road with the Jerry Garcia band, because I was afraid of them. I really was afraid that I didn't know what it was and what's going on, and I could lose my stuff or something go down and nobody cares enough about me to get it back, and I'm somewhere out of town. And so for almost 2 months, they rented from SIR the gear they wanted me to play.
Okay, so that's a company in the Bay Area?
Yeah, it's Studio Instrument Rentals.
Okay,
so they would rent an organ basically for me, because they didn't own one. Brent owned a lot of organs on the Grateful Dead side.
Sure.
But the Jerry Garcia band didn't own an organ, and so they had to rent one for me to play.
But they didn't, and they respected where you were coming from. They never.
Well, I didn't say that. I didn't come out and say. I never offered it.
Right. And so,
I had a pretty. I only had one at that time, and it was a pretty legendary organ. I don't know if it had that gold and black. I don't know if you ever saw it. But it was really just contact paper years ago, but I put it all over the organ. That organ became well recognized when I was in Evolution of Blues. It was in a couple of key magazines. They didn't even have me, but they had the picture of the organ in there.
Oh, wow. I'm going to have to do some research.
It was an unusual look to a B3. You may not recognize it, but it was kind of gold and black all around it. Very pretty. And so I only had that one. And I just wasn't going to let it go because it was special to me, and I didn't know what this was. And so I never offered it. I think Steve Paris, someone asked me once, well, Melvin, you got, no.
You got any organ? Yeah, no.
But then, it didn't take long before I realized there were some of the most lovingest people on this planet Earth. Not only just the band, the Deadheads, period. Once I understood, because I knew nothing about them. Believe me, I knew nothing about them.
Mm-hmm.
And I was and when I went up to the office and saw all that, and, they kept taking these breaks, going in these rooms, I didn't know what was going on,
Right.
They kept taking a lot of breaks. We played 2 songs and take a break, 2 songs and take a break. And they go in these rooms, I don't know what they're doing.
When you're talking about rehearsing, or
rehearsing, yeah,
yeah, right, exactly. There was always this time of you'd play a couple songs, okay, great, and then they'd go get high,
I didn't know this.
Right.
I never got high in my life.
Right.
I don't know much about drugs and what the signs of what a person's doing. I knew nothing about that stuff. And they kept taking these breaks. and I'm just kind of scared of. Jimmy, the guy, piano player, was weird looking, and everybody was a strange kind of characters, and I just didn't know what was going on. So I really didn't think I was going to be there very long. I just wanted to do a few gigs.
Well, we're sure happy that you stuck around, man. You fit in. God, that is just one of the most compelling and interesting parts of the history of Garcia. But I guess the point is you realize that the community, the people that would go to these shows, that would attend these shows, after a while, you realize that it was really all love. Although...
Oh, yeah. I got it probably. We did the first gigs, we did 3 shows, and they're all Keystones. I think 2 was in San Francisco and 1 was in Berkeley, Keystone. Then, there was a break, and then some more gigs come up. It was a Keystone in Palo Alto, I think, at the time. We did that one a few times. So it was just pretty much Keystones we were doing at that time. And then, then there were big breaks because the Grateful Dead would go out and work. I never knew why there were breaks, but, we just do 3 shows, and that'd be it for a while. And 3 more shows would come up, and that'd be it for a while. And, but it took a while for me to understand, because it wasn't enough for me to just, grab it. But it didn't take long. After a few more shows, I realized what was really going on, and then I more about who Jerry Garcia was. I obviously did my homework. And said, oh my God, wow.
Right. You were really, you didn't even. That's the Club Front story where you said, "Hey, you're a great guitar player." That's one of the greatest stories of all time.
That's all I could say. I didn't know who he was, and I didn't remember his name. Like I said, about 5, 6 people came in at the door at the same time. They must have all met outside or stood outside talking, and I was inside. And so, Jerry, John Conn, Jimmy, Steve Parrish, and a couple other guys that this was kind of roadie guys, and I think a couple background singers. I'm not for sure if they were there at that time or they came a little later. But it was just, I heard Jerry's name, but I didn't hear Jerry's name. And I didn't remember it, so he was just a guitar player. I didn't know who he was.
Well, you also your introduction into the band, by 1983, Garcia's health was deteriorating rapidly, and but yet you could still. We're going to play a clip here from my hometown from 1983, and you're going to hear this interplay between Jerry and Jon and Melvin. So let's take a listen to this and come back and talk about it. what were you playing? You were playing the Hammond, but you were playing some synthesizer too?
Yeah, my left hand was playing synthesizer and the organ with the right hand.
I mean, that was like in the middle of and like you said, you would play some West Coast, like maybe 2 or 3 shows, and then you'd be done for a while. But I mean, some of these East Coast tours were just prodigious. I'm like, how you had a pack for a month?
Oh no, we did, no. I don't remember how much. I didn't take a lot of. We didn't take a lot of clothes. You took enough that you'd have for about a week, and then you, at some point, do your laundry, and you'd have
right.
Over again for another week.
Because I mean, that tour started in the Midwest, made its way to the East Coast. That was December 4th, 1983 at SUNY Stony Brook. Then you went to UVM. You guys were doing. How would you go? I mean, would you travel in one big bus or fly? How would that work?
In the last 8 years, there were Learjets. We'd do the East Coast run, and the East Coast run may go as far as from New York to Chicago or wherever. We would fly there and fly back to New York.
I'm talking about when you first, like in the early 80s. I mean, that's the scrappier time before things got real elevated.
Yeah. Well, then it was definitely a tour bus.
So you guys would finish a show in Stony Brook, jump on it, and drive to Vermont, like 3-4 hour drive, and that's how it would work.
Some of them would drive. Sometimes the bus met us there, and we flew. We still flew there.
Looking back on it, Melvin, because I know you're coming to Tucson in July, and you're still. I mean, I've seen you at the Rhythm Room in Phoenix. Talk about in our final moments here. Once you reconciled, your spiritual beliefs with, sort of the eccentricities of the Grateful Dead, and it became strictly about the music, and you realized that when guys disappeared, you knew where they were going. And once you figured this stuff out and evolved, looking back on it, when you look at John Conn and Jerry Garcia, how would you sum them up as people more than even musicians?
Well, I knew that they were great musicians. I knew there were people that needed help. The world is nothing but, they used to say, sick folks trying to get well. In a sense, we're all struggling in some form of fashion with some form of demons or something that keeps us from being perfect, if you will. And we all got something that it likes to take us down that dark path, And so these are guys that obviously are great musicians and great human beings, just struggling with the drug contents. And how it got started, I wasn't there. I don't know, but they certainly didn't write the book. It goes on in history. It just goes way back. And so looking at them, and not saying I'm better than them, I knew I didn't want to go down that road. I did not want to be that person on stage, that I had to do something to free my mind and spirit and whatever it does to go out and face these people. I wanted to do it raw and pure. I love life. I love who I was and what God had given me, and I wanted to come out and smile and greet these people and give them the best that I had to give.
Hey, Melvin, I'd like to talk to you just about 5 more minutes. Is that cool? Okay. So we're going to go to the break. We'll come back in just a little bit.
Okay.
All right.
CBS News, I'm Sam Litzinger. Death from above in Yemen. Officials say apparent U.S. drone strikes have killed at least 11 suspected al-Qaeda militants, even as Yemeni government troops press an attack against militants in the southern part of the country. CBS News senior national security analyst Juan Zarate.
These are
Melvin, I didn't want you to cut you off. That was really important because it was not the answer I was expecting. So, I mean, you saw them really killing themselves, and you made it a point to. I mean, I guess but it
was.
wasn't.
You know what? Not to cut you off.
Go ahead.
I have to put this in there. There was a time that Ron Tuck came back to the band, and when he came back to the band, he was in there obviously before I got in the band. He was found God, and he was claiming to be a Christian. And the first thing he said to me, you know who Ronnie Tuck is, good drummer for Elvis.
Of course, yeah.
Says, we have to help these guys. This is our mission, because he recognized the soul in me that I was, I'm a Christian guy too. And he said to me, and his mission was, the reason why he came back, he wanted to help Jerry and Jon. The only thing he did, I think, wrong is he shoved it down their throat too hard about what they're doing wrong, and you got to find God and Christ. And he really wanted to preach the Bible to them, and they weren't ready for that.
I mean, hindsight's 20/20, and again, it sounds like Ron was a little bit too aggressive. But how would you have approached it?
Like I did approach it.
How did you approach it?
All what I refused and did not do, and Jerry respected me enough that he would not do it in front of me.
Right.
He would not. He never did do anything. Whatever he did, he didn't do it in front of me. He always went to another room, or they made sure I had my own individual room. There's a little light that shines by how you live and how you walk, that you're different from other people, and that's all I did. He knew I was a religious person by how I talked. I didn't cuss. I didn't, I just didn't do the things that you shouldn't be doing.
When did you find yourself outside of the shows? How would you share commonalities? Like, how would you guys go out for dinner? I mean, how would that work? Because were they very reclusive, and therefore you kind of were, on your own? No,
we're together. They were always cracking jokes. Jerry and Jon made they constantly making you laugh. They take a simple nothing and just turn it around, turn it around, and make a lot of fun. And they constantly did that. So they were a lot of fun, eating lunch and breakfast and traveling with them, and the stupid things that we would say, and Jerry would say things that, you just laugh at it, because it's funny, The dark side, like I said, they kept it from me. They would always go, if whatever Jerry and Jon did, they went somewhere else, or they had their own room, and then I had a room down the hall, and I didn't go in there because I knew, Jerry's writing the set list, and he's drumming, running the scales and the guitar, whatever else is going on. If they wanted me, they would come get me if they want to talk about the show or something they wanted me to do or something different. Otherwise, when they had their own room, I didn't invade in their territory. I didn't go down there.
And as far as on stage communication, especially when it just became you and the band, talk about that intimacy, being able to play from your soul and knowing that those guys had an equally powerful soul, even though they were fighting their own demons. We're all fighting our own demons, obviously. Mm-hmm. But that emotional connection when you guys would, on a Mississippi Moon, just... Mm-hmm. Can you just put that in, if you could, just try to put that in perspective for someone like myself who never saw you guys?
Well, there was two sides to that on stage. There was a side where those guys had probably did too much of whatever they do, and they couldn't deliver on stage. They're standing there like a bump off a log. You've seen people do that, and they're fighting. They're fighting what is this substance they're under, and they're barely performing. There's the other side where, I didn't see any of that, and he played his ass off. And Jerry would look at me and smile, and I smile back. Jerry do the lick, I do a lick. Jerry do another lick, I do. I challenged him all. I kicked his butt. Challenged him. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, he took it off to space somewhere where I couldn't go, and I lost at that point every time. But I challenged him, and he liked that. He'd look over, he'd do something, I'd do it, and he had that little grin, and then he'd do something else, and I'd do it, and he'd grin again. We kept going till he did some stuff I couldn't do, But it was fun. Those were fun times, But there was a time that he was really loud because his whatever peripheral hearing and vision thing is all off because of whatever they were messing around with. And I come to understand that when we went to the venue too early and had too much time on your hand, that's kind of when too much was done.
I see.
I've learned when we kind of get there, just enough time for sound check, dinner, right, set to get on stage, hey, it was cool, but too much time. We got there at 3 o'clock and stuff wasn't even set up yet. And so we're just in these rooms. That's the show that kind of, I said, okay, this is what's going on here.
Yeah, it got a little weird. Did you ever see yourself, like, especially in the early 80s, you had a couple of female singers who were also African American. Was there a time where maybe Jerry was hoping to bring in an audience of a black audience? I know you guys played at you played in East St. Louis, Illinois. You played in some traditionally black neighborhoods, especially in the early 80s. And I wasn't sure if there was ever any mixed crowds, what the crowds were like, or they were always deadheads.
There were always deadheads. Very few blacks, very few Afro-Americans. There were some, but the ones that were there they were already deadheads. I think the people that came and saw the show that were not deadheads were family and friends of us singers and myself, inviting someone down to come see what we're doing. And it's ironic, they always enjoyed the show, and they wanted to come back more and more and more. They did enjoy the show. So it wasn't like they come in, oh, man, what are you guys doing? That is not my taste. They actually enjoyed the magnitude of the show. So he could have, I don't think we brought in a lot, but we could have if we were exposed on maybe a show that may have had some black artists, and then we came out, but we wasn't really on. Jerry kind of headlined all his shows, pretty much so. How do you
look at the I saw you a couple years ago in Phoenix, and it was a blast, but how do you, are you still bringing in the older deadheads, or has the scene changed now with the new band you tour with?
It has changed. We have the young people that have never seen Jerry, know nothing about Jerry. Well, I shouldn't say that, but they're like from 15, 18, 19, 21, 25. Maybe some people over 30, but it's a younger crowd, and they obviously are children of the older deadheads, because they know the songs. They know every word to every song. They're looking us in our face and singing the words, and yet they never saw Jerry. It wasn't born enough, in time. So they're, obviously heard this music in the house, and then there are people that come that a friend brings that didn't like the Grateful Dead, but wasn't aware of us, and come and just fall in love with us. Say, oh man, I like these people, because we were more R&B-ish, Motownish, than more on that side than the psychedelic Grateful Dead side.
Right.
Yeah.
And actually, the That's What Love Will Make You Do, that clip we played, that was a tour that Kreutzmann went on, which made it even more sound like the Grateful Dead, as compared to Kemper. I mean, it swung even hard. I mean, all those drummers were great, and all the singers were great, Melvin. I oftentimes thought about, again, I'm 34 and I never saw Jerry, so I missed it too. And I'm in my car listening to analog tapes, and I can feel that, but I oftentimes think about, I'm like, what was Melvin thinking in the depths of 84 when Jerry looked like a troll? Like, literally to the point, like, his skin was like ashen green. You must have been thinking, I don't know if we're going to be going on tour again after this.
I didn't see it quite like that.
Mm-hmm.
I had many conversations with Jerry, and they were of other values. I didn't see in the last few years what was really going on. I knew he was looking bad, and his health was failing. He would tell me he just felt like, and just needed a new body, and I knew but I didn't see death. I didn't see that. I was told later on, they started shutting down things way before he passed because they knew that he didn't have long, and I didn't see that at all.
Yeah, I'm even actually talking about more like 84. Like 84, if you go back now and it was at a point where his voice was shot. He was over 300 pounds. And he looked like, you go back and look at video, people will say that it's amazing. It took 2 years for him to go into the coma. And you guys had a very brief 85 schedule. I wondered if you can remember it all during 83 or 84, if you ever went to him and said, man, I want to help you, because it seemed like there were a lot of people. In fact, I remember there was just a Garcia Con, just an acoustic tour, and Phil Lesh made the comment to Robert Hunter, who was going out on tour with them. He said, Godspeed, please help, please save Jerry. It seemed like it was kind of even before the 90s, obviously, he had that rebirth, but
yeah,
it was a struggle to, of course, those are my favorite times because it seems like, he was rising from the dead at that point. Melvin, I know you're coming to Tucson, to the Rialto, and I look forward to talking to you a little bit more when you come down here.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that.
Hey, man, have a great day, and it was an honor.
All right. You
take care, man. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.